with a topic on how to achieve wholesome intimacy in marriage. How to achieve wholesome intimacy in marriage. Now, the reason why my co host and I came up with this topic is because studies show that lack of intimacy in marriage can lead to feelings of neglect, loneliness, and emotional disconnection. Now, research also shows that a high quality marriage is associated with less incidences of stress and depression. There are at least four levels of intimacy: spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, and physical intimacy. And of course, in our show, it will be impossible for us to exhaustively discuss this topic in one sitting. So we will make this topic a series, and for the next 2 or 3 shows, we'll be tackling the different levels of intimacy. On this particular show, we will, among other things, be answering the question how couples should relate with each other in order to minimize stress in marriage and relationship. But before we do that, and just in case you're joining us for the very first time, on the set, I have my very able co-host, Mrs. Rosalind Nganga, and I'm just going to give her a minute or two to introduce herself, just in case you are new to our show, and just to say hi to you. Rosalind, how are you, my dear?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Please say hi to our viewers.
Hello, guys. I trust you're well. Since the last time we were on here, it's always a pleasure, always an honor to be here.
Yeah.
And just to remind you all that I'm a personal development, spiritual, and relationship wellness coach.
Yes, you are.
And so it is a joy to be here to speak on matters relationship
Absolutely.
because the goal is to grow together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, Rosalind is so resourceful. Every time I do a show with her, I'm learning, I'm growing. She's absolutely a walking encyclopedia.
Thank
Make
you.
sure to tell a friend to join, because you won't, you will enjoy the session. I can guarantee you that 100%. So as we lay a foundation for our topic, Rosalind,
Yeah.
it is important that we define what intimacy is, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
again, we said we're talking about how to achieve wholesome intimacy in marriage. So what is intimacy?
I think the best way to define intimacy
Yeah,
is basically how people relate.
yeah,
How people relate with one another, whether it is emotionally, whether physically, mentally, spiritually.
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's basically how we relate with one another.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it involves lots of emotions,
yeah,
lots of rationale. Yeah.
absolutely. And listen to this. When I was doing my study on this particular topic, the word intimacy in the Latin language literally means innermost.
Yes, deepest.
Innermost, yeah? So somebody defined intimacy in line with that.
Yeah.
Intimacy means into me, see. See into me, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because when couples are intimate, they have that level of intimacy. That means they're emotionally,
Connected.
physically, intellectually, and even spiritually connected, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So intimacy is being naked and not ashamed.
Totally.
Right?
Being vulnerable.
Emotional vulnerability.
Yeah, emotional vulnerability.
Being vulnerable with your spouse, yeah? So it's very important our viewers understand that you see, the problem we have is most people think of intimacy only in the sense of physical intimacy.
That's what most people know.
Yeah.
And that is what most people are hung on to
Yeah.
because it is the most common of them all.
Yeah.
But nobody really talks about the other types of intimacy
Yeah.
that affect the growth of a relationship. And actually, that is why most relationships fall short.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about also
Yeah.
the types of love that build up
Yeah.
marriages
Yeah.
and build up intimate relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, most people think intimacy is only physical intimacy.
Yeah.
But really, it is the very lowest of the spectrum,
Exactly.
isn't it?
It is what happens after you have related with your partner
Yeah.
on all those other levels
Yeah.
of intimacy.
And one of the things I do, and I fault Hollywood on this one, is
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
have given us a perception of intimacy only in the context of physical intimacy, which is wrong.
I think, Edwin,
Yeah.
it's at this point that I should actually mention
Yeah.
all these types of love
Yeah.
so that people understand what we are talking
Please
about when
do.
we say
Yeah.
that intimacy, physical intimacy is at the very lowest point. It is very important,
Yeah.
but also for it to be built up,
Yeah.
there has to be all these other types of things.
Yeah.
So I studied something that Sternberg came up with. Sternberg is a psychologist,
Yeah.
and he came up with a triangular theory of love.
Yeah.
So this is how a triangle looks like.
Yeah.
At the apex, we have intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
On this side, we have passion.
Mm-hmm.
And on this side, we have commitment.
Wow.
So for you to be able to have, that kind of marriage
Yeah.
that is burning and that is bringing a lot of growth in every aspect,
Yeah.
you have to have intimacy, you have to have passion, and you have to have commitment.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's the same thing now with types of intimacy. People only know passion,
Yeah.
physical intimacy,
Yeah.
but they forget about commitment.
Mm-hmm.
They forget about, so for Sternberg, he calls it love, and then there's intimacy at the apex.
Yeah.
Yeah, so intimacy for him
Yeah.
is connecting emotionally.
Okay.
And then there's passion, where you connect physically.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's commitment, where you choose this person over and over again.
Wow.
So according to him, for you to experience the greatest level of marriage and relationship, you have to have those three.
There's so much I can glean from that.
Yeah.
So basically what he is saying, love is commitment
Love is commitment.
over and above everything else.
Love is commitment.
So when you love someone, you're committed to them because it's a decision you make,
Exactly.
isn't it? So when you got married to Mr. Nganga,
Yeah.
it was a commitment. You could have chosen anyone else. But among all, you said, for me, it is Mr. Nganga.
Yeah.
And your mind is there, your heart is there, your soul is there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So unless you make that decision, it's a decision. I
It
truly
is.
believe love is a decision.
It is a decision. It's a decision. But he also says that if you only focus on commitment, he calls it empty love, actually.
Ah,
So if you only focus on commitment, then you will not be able to enjoy physical intimacy. You will not be able to enjoy social intimacy. You will not be able to enjoy all these other types of intimacy.
yeah,
So he says that for you to be able to enjoy love as it should be,
yeah,
I think consummate love, he calls it consummate love.
yeah,
For you to be able to enjoy consummate love,
Yeah.
you have to be able to commit. You have to make sure that there's actually passion for your partner, that you're attracted to them physically.
Yeah.
That is physical intimacy.
Yeah.
And then you have to be able to relate with them emotionally.
wow.
That is, what do we call it? This type of intimacy where you're able to relate with your partner emotionally. I don't know the exact word, but he says that you have to have those three level of
I get it. So
connection.
we have emotional connection, we have passion,
Yeah.
and then we have commitment to make a perfect
To
triangle.
make
Yeah,
consummate love, yeah.
that is absolutely amazing. So again, like we're saying, you have to connect with your partner on a very deeper level.
Yeah.
Intimacy,
Yes.
in order even for the physical intimacy to come alive.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Because again, and I know maybe we are getting ahead of
I
ourselves.
know.
Like I was saying, Hollywood focuses on physical
Yes.
intimacy, which is important, yeah, but really it shouldn't be the foundation.
Thank
It
you.
shouldn't be the
You have nailed it. It should not be the foundation.
It should not be the
Yeah.
foundational. So we have to renew our mind, cause there to be a paradigm shift, so that we can build on the right foundation, isn't it? Eh?
Today you came here with gems.
You make it
You
happen. you know?
We thank God. Anyway.
Yeah.
We hope that our viewers are going to learn a lot from this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, we say this is going to be a 3-part series. We
Yeah.
cannot exhaust everything we have to say in one sitting. So we decided to make it a 3-part series because we want you to get as much as you can. How do you build intimacy in marriage?
Amazing. So, I think the greatest way to build intimacy in marriage, first of all, we said that physical intimacy, just to echo your words,
Yeah.
should not be the foundation
Yeah,
of marriage
Yeah.
or even of relationships.
yeah,
So what really should be the foundation
yeah,
of marriage
Yeah.
and love and relationships? One is to be able to connect with this person emotionally,
true.
to be able to speak to this person, open your heart,
Yeah,
be able to connect with this person intellectually.
yeah,
So communication is it, should be the foundation.
yeah,
Yani, take your time to converse on, first of all, what are you all about? Edwin?
Yeah.
Who are you really?
yeah,
Is your partner able to know what you love to do. Away from your relationship, what do you do? What do you love to do? What are your hobbies?
Yeah.
You know, be able to connect with your partner intellectually.
True.
You know, have conversations. What is your take in politics? What is your take in finances?
I love
What
that.
is your take in all these things, current issues
Yeah.
affecting our
Yeah.
society? What is your take on abortion?
Mm.
What let's connect with one another intellectually,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
and then let's connect with each other socially.
Yeah.
Let's go out, you know, interact with our friends.
True.
Let me know your friends, and you get to know my friends
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
so that we know if we share the same values.
Yeah.
Because show me your friends,
And I'll show
and
you
I'll
who
tell
you
you the kind of a person you are.
Absolutely.
So give me the opportunity to know the people that you interact with,
Yeah.
your community,
Yeah.
so that I'm able to learn who you are
Yeah.
on the outside.
Yeah.
On the yani tuanze the outside and then the inside, because we have already conversed, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
already told me who you are, but I also need to know who you are depending on the people that you also interact
Absolutely.
with, you know.
Yeah.
So those levels of intimacy, how you build intimacy is to be able to achieve all these kinds of interactions.
True.
Yeah, I interact with your mind, I interact with the environment that surrounds you, and then I interact with you spiritually.
Absolutely.
Let me know what you think about God, a higher power. Let me know if you agree with it, so that if you're able to match with these value systems,
Yeah.
then we will be open with one another. I will not be
Absolutely.
I will not be afraid of expressing certain dislikes, certain likes, invite you in certain places, because I know what you like and what you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I believe that's how you build intimacy.
You have said a mouthful there. Oh
I
my
know,
God.
right?
My thoughts are everywhere. So
Uh-huh.
what I heard you say, communication is the lifeline of a relationship,
Totally.
isn't it? One of the things I tell young people, correct me if I'm wrong, especially young girls, if you're dating, make the guy first of all fall in love with your brain,
Thank you.
isn't it? Because if you show him your cleavage and your thighs, he'll fall in
gonna
love
be
with your
stuck on that.
body, but not your intellectual capacity. If he falls in love with your mind,
Yeah.
oh my God,
You'll not be able to
he will
live.
be with you forever.
Yeah.
But you see, our body changes. So today you may be all there, but in a few years you won't be,
Exactly.
isn't it? So fall in love with the intellectual part of that person. And then you mention spiritual intimacy,
Yeah.
praying together, sharing the word together. There's something you said when we were off air.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell on you.
Please
That when
do.
you wake up in the morning with your husband, you do a devotion.
We do. And it has really made a difference.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, Edwin, it is impossible to stay angry at each other if you want to have that devotion.
True.
You know, there's just a way in which God breaks you gracefully,
Yeah.
such that you just have to be open and vulnerable with each other to be
Yeah.
able to pray together. Otherwise, you'd be feeling guilty,
Yeah.
and feeling as if, even actually, God says in His Word that before you come and give me sacrifices, go and apologize to your brother, go and
Absolutely.
make peace with your brother.
Yeah.
So even in marriages, in relationships, it's good to make sure that that spiritual aspect is there,
Is
so
intact.
so that it becomes the glue that keeps you together.
Absolutely.
When your butterflies are not working
Yeah.
for you, then spiritual intimacy will come through
Yeah.
for you. Yeah.
And you'll be celebrating 1 year in marriage in a couple of days.
Yay,
Isn't it,
praise
eh?
the Lord.
And what I love, again, and I'm amazed by you, Rose, is you've been consistent in your devotion for the past 1 year.
We thank
In
God.
almost couples, that fire burns out within a few
I
months.
know, and we are trusting God to even grow.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, one time I told my husband that one of the greatest fears I have is to grow apart in different directions.
Wow.
And this is why it is important to have those conversations, so that time and again you're checking to see where are you at.
Yeah.
You know, how are you growing
Yeah.
spiritually? How are you growing financially? How
Yeah.
are you you know, if you're able to keep tabs with how your partner is growing in all these levels,
Yeah.
then there will not be any kind of growth that is, you know, going in different directions.
True.
Because if you grow in different directions and your partner is not keeping tabs, at the end of the day, you're going to lose emotional, you know, connection.
Absolutely. And I remember one pastor giving an analogy,
Yeah.
like when you're riding a motorbike and you're both of you, when you're taking a turn, both of you have to
bend.
turn at the same time, yeah? So when you see it in that context, it's very hard for you to grow apart Because when he takes a turn, you take a turn.
Yeah,
When you take a turn, he
exactly.
takes a turn. Because the fear you have of you growing apart is very legitimate. By the way. It
Yeah.
happens to most couples. So when you're talking about spiritual intimacy, we're telling our viewers, if one person grows spiritually and the other one doesn't, there's a
Yeah.
disconnect.
There's a disconnect.
Isn't it? And there's something you said. Oh, today you're full of gems. You said when you have a devotion,
Yeah.
God is able to break your heart. You cannot stay mad at each other. You
can't.
cannot have a hardened heart. Because Jesus said, when he was asked by the Pharisees, why did Moses allow us to divorce?
Yeah.
He says, because of your hardened heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Actually, Kendi Ashitiva, she's
Yeah.
a therapist. She says the number one and the ultimate thing that breaks marriages is hardened hearts.
Yeah.
Hearts that are not able to change.
Yeah.
Hearts that are not willing to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that aspect of a hardened heart, let the Lord break your spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because again, and this is very important, when you're close to God as a couple, you know, is it David who said, create with me? He said,
clean heart.
he
Create
said,
in me a clean heart.
no, the Bible says, I'm not a preacher, but I read my Bible
Yeah.
that he's close to them that are of a broken heart.
A
and a
broken and
contrite
contrite
spirit.
spirit he does not despise.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that God loved about David, the brokenness. So if you're close to God as a couple
Yeah.
and you're mad at each other, the Spirit of the Lord will nudge you. Everyone that will be a
You know?
And you're like, stack you.
Because you have a greater accountability
Yeah.
beyond yourself. And that
Yeah.
is why usually I'm such, I keep talking about accountability.
Yeah.
When we talk about relationships, there is no space for lack of accountability. It
I
has to
agree.
be there because sometimes you will not see your own mistakes. But somebody somewhere will see your mistakes and will
Yeah.
be able to call them out for you.
Yeah.
But it is even sweeter when you have a connection with God because he's the one who will actually call you out
Absolutely.
because of your relationship with
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
And
so
one of the
spiritual
things-
intimacy.
True, yeah. Sorry. One of the things I believe when you're choosing a best couple,
Yeah.
don't just choose a couple based on they are tall, dark, and handsome, or
they
they
are
are popular.
available.
Yeah. Look at the spiritual foundation, because the first person who you're accountable to as a couple is your best couple.
Exactly.
To them, you should be vulnerable to them and say, "This is where we are. We are stuck.
Yeah.
What do we do?"
Yeah.
So when you mentioned accountability, my mind went back to that because most young people, when they're choosing a best couple, they don't understand what is the essence
They
of
don't.
it. Be careful to choose somebody
Yeah.
or a couple that are established
Mm.
in God, because we say the first level of intimacy is spiritual intimacy,
Yeah.
especially because you're speaking to young people in the church
Yeah.
who are dating and they're looking for how do I go around it. Before you go to physical intimacy,
Please.
go to spiritual intimacy. When you're dating, let us digress.
Yeah.
You can have excursions as a group whereby you can go on a prayer retreat,
Exactly.
right? And you spend the day praying, reading the Bible, holding hands, because you're laying that foundation. And that will enable you, when you cross the line and say, I do, to connect on a much deeper level. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. And the problem is just because people don't see the result of prayer immediately, they tend to overlook the power that prayer has.
Yeah.
And the power that kind of fellowship brings
Yeah.
and the growth that it brings into a relationship. People like superficial things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And this is why they prefer physical intimacy first, because this is something they see,
Yeah.
You will connect immediately.
Yeah.
And that is infatuation.
Yeah.
That is what passion is all about.
Yeah.
You're able to see the connection at that particular time. It does not take time, but good things take time.
Oh.
Go and connect
Yeah.
spiritually. Take
Yeah.
that time to have difficult conversations, so that you build a solid foundation. When the winds come, when finances are not working, then your relationship will still stand because you connect on a deeper level beyond passion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
When you're in the dating phase, have that difficult conversation. Don't just be quick to put your best foot forward. When people are dating, they always want to put their best foot forward to impress their partner. No, have that difficult conversation because you'll be able to know that person who he is, isn't it? So when it comes to spiritual intimacy, I cannot overstate it. It's paramount.
Yeah.
No wonder the Bible says, do not be unequally yoked.
Yeah.
If I'm of the school of thought a believer shouldn't date an unbeliever.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because you never know what might what might conform you.
Yeah.
You know, we have weaknesses as human beings,
Yeah.
and you could meet somebody who is actually dragging you backwards and making you go back towards the things that you are struggling with initially.
Exactly. Yeah.
So instead of exposing yourself to such environments,
Yeah.
just go to the people who've grown to your level, because why would you go back to somebody who does not share
Yeah.
the same value systems as you? It means you're also not solid with your value
Absolutely.
systems. Yeah.
Because if you date an unbeliever, he or she will
Yeah.
first of all focus on physical intimacy. When
Exactly.
are we going to kiss? When are we going to make out? And you yourself, you're trying to keep yourself pure.
And I'm sorry for attacking men,
Please
but
do.
men have the habit of saying, and me, asiponipea, mimi najua that this person is not mine, because they believe that that is the way that a woman gets to commit
Yeah,
to
yeah,
a man. But
yeah.
men, you need to transform your thinking
Come on
and
now,
change
come
it.
on.
Yeah.
Today she's mad.
I'm so mad because I'm like, upewe nini, just hold on.
I
You know,
agree.
these things
Actually,
are earned. Trust is earned.
You know, I agree. I tell young girls, oh, I wish you get these young ladies.
You know?
If you give in to his sexual demands, the interest he has for you will end.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
It just clouds your
The
judgment.
best way to get him to stay with you is play hard to get. You know, we are hunters by nature.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're too easy, we will come in, do our thing, and move on. But if you show resilience, we are like, "Kwani would they?"
There's actually so much power that women have, especially in that season of dating, because you get to determine the direction of that relationship.
Yeah.
If the man is serious, he will want to know more about you.
Yeah.
If he's not serious, if his goal was not getting into a serious relationship, then he will leave, and you have not lost nothing. Honestly.
Exactly.
You have lost nothing.
Yeah.
The only thing you have lost is a person who is going to just come in and do everything that you've been doing
Absolutely.
on personal development.
Yeah. So when you're dating and you make up your mind you're not going to give in to his advances
Yeah.
or even her advances, there are women who go for that thing, yeah? He or she will be forced to focus on your intellect.
Exactly.
And to be quite honest, men want to take home someone who has values.
Yeah.
You see the girls we meet in clubs, it's a one night thing.
Yeah.
We
And then
don't
that's
take
it.
yeah. But if we see a girl that has values, that's the one we want to commit to. That's the one I want to be the mother of my kids.
Yeah.
And most young girls don't understand that. I wish they would. Play hard to get.
You know, I don't know why we girls find ourselves compromising, but it's because we think that when we compromise, that's when we're going to get, you know, the other good part of this other person. But
Yeah.
what are they holding back on
Yeah.
themselves?
Yeah.
You know, you need to know what are you bringing on the table at this particular time.
Yeah.
Well, you have compromised as a lady because you're giving into a desire that you did not want to give into.
Yeah.
So what is the man compromising?
Yeah.
You know, it's good to ask yourself,
Yeah.
because you should meet each other halfway.
Yeah.
At least know what you're coming here to do
Yeah.
and lay it bare on the table.
Absolutely.
If they are taking it, let them take it. If not,
Yeah.
let them go.
If you play hard to get and he leaves,
Yeah.
at least you know umeponyoka accident. At least you know he was not the one.
Yeah.
If he's the one, he will stick with you.
I know. And honestly, I don't know how many times we need to tell the young people this, Gen Z.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we need to emphasize on this thing that sex just has its own you know, sex is divine,
Yeah.
but it has been secularized.
Yeah.
People feel like it belongs to the world, but it's actually a tool that was given by God to beautify the relationship that you have already
Absolutely.
started. You know, that connection that you already started emotionally, that connection that you already started spiritually, then God brought in sex so that he would bless, he would consummate. But people do it the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, and that is why you're finding people who are broken. You know, they've been left by partners they thought are going to hold them down to the very end.
Yeah.
You did not stand with your values.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is why you're experiencing it.
Sex is icing on the cake,
Mm-hmm.
isn't
It really
it?
is, yeah.
After you've gone through all these other levels of connection, then God gives you sex as a gift.
Exactly.
And we are getting ahead of ourselves.
I know. I know.
So we say spiritual intimacy is a priority. So if you're starting, and even if you're married and you didn't lay that foundation, it's never too late.
Thank you. I wanted you to mention that.
Yeah, it is never too
Yeah,
late. You
yeah.
can actually redig that foundation.
Because actually, let me tell you, let me cut you short,
Yeah,
kidogo,
absolutely.
and mention this, that sometimes people in marriages, some people really want to work, to work their marriages out, but they're wondering, what is this missing piece? What is this that is lacking in this relationship that you're not able to get to the level of growth that we
Yeah.
intend to get to? Some of these things were ignored in the formative stages. It could be that you ignored your spiritual growth for
Yeah.
both of you.
Yeah.
It could be that you ignored social intimacy.
Yeah.
You did not take time to understand what kind of things does this person like to do
Yeah.
away from our relationship,
Yeah.
so that you can connect on that level and understand if you love the things he loves or if she loves the things you love, things like that. So the missing pieces are, maybe you did not connect emotionally with this person.
Yeah.
You just committed because you knew that it was time to get married.
Yeah.
So you missed out on emotions, you missed out on passion.
Yeah.
So it's good to understand, it's good to be intentional,
Yeah.
to sit down and think to yourself, okay, we are committed, that's fine. So what are we lacking? Are we able to connect? Are we able to sit and talk as friends? I remember one time I attended a wedding,
Yeah.
and I loved the preacher for that day
Yeah.
because they talked about types of love that people should connect
Yeah.
with, so that you're able to achieve that wholesome kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
And she talked about a brotherly love, one that mnaweza keti chini mchape story, and
As a
laugh
couple.
together.
Yeah.
You're able to talk about certain things that are happening outside there. You are able to connect as friends.
Yeah.
That's brotherly love.
Yeah.
And then she talked about agape love, that's God's love, just what we are talking about here, that you're able to pray together, that you're able to read the scripture together, and you're able to connect in that way. And then there is now intimate love,
Yeah.
now physical intimacy.
Yeah.
So the problem is that we neglect all these types of intimacy. The problem is that we are not intentional. We
Yeah.
are very casual when it comes to our marriages. We work on our businesses,
Yeah.
we work on our careers, but we forget to work on our marriages. We say that marriage is work. So how are you working? What are the tools you're
Yeah.
using?
Yeah.
If you go to war with a panga and the people you're fighting with are fighting with guns, definitely you're going to die in war.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you need to know the weapons that you're coming with in this battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said something powerful. You have to be intentional.
Intentional, yeah.
So, for those who are married, what we're saying is that if you lack that level of intimacy, you can actually redig that foundation.
Yeah.
So, as a couple, start by having devotion together. It may be
Exactly.
awkward at first because you've never done it.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Because we said when you're spiritually growing together, God is able to break your heart, her heart. So if there are any issues, you're
Love
quick
it.
to say, I'm sorry, baby,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a hardened heart will be like, jipange.
Shauri yake,
You
you
get what I
know?
mean, eh?
Yeah.
And that causes you to be disconnected and for your love to grow distant. So there is hope for you that are emotionally disconnected. So spiritual
Intimacy.
intimacy, and then there's, you mentioned emotional intimacy. And we dealt with this a lot, especially when talking
Yeah,
about emotional
in the
vulnerability.
previous,
Because again, we say intimacy is innermost. See into me. Most couples rose, and I'm guilty.
Yeah.
We are not really open with our spouses about our innermost being. Why?
It is because naturally opening up, naturally just being naked is not an easy thing.
It is hard.
Emotionally, because most people are just used to harboring their emotions and dealing with them on their own, or even using other defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
But you're asking this person to take all the power from you. You're asking them, you know what, I need to pour this all into you, and then you can see me bare. Where is your power left
I
after
know,
that? You
I
know?
know.
It is because of fear. we are not sure we can trust this person, but trust is built.
Yeah.
And there is so much power on the other side of your fear.
Yeah.
You could be expressing your problems, you could be expressing your fears and your insecurities to the best person there is.
True.
So you must risk it, honestly. If you have decided to get married, you must
Yeah.
risk it. You have no other choice.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that your partner has your best interest at heart.
heart.
Usually it is fear and insecurities that make us not open up and connect to this person emotionally, and also selfishness.
Okay.
Because you do not want this person to see that side of you,
Yeah.
that weakness, because you feel like now they have power over you.
Yeah.
But the truth is, who are you fighting?
Yeah.
This battle is being fought by two teammates.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
two team players. You're not the ones, you're not pulling the rope on this other side and her on this other side. You're pulling the rope from the same
It's
side.
both of you against the
You
world.
know, yeah, it's both of you against the enemy, against the world.
Yeah.
So once you understand that you're not fighting your partner,
Yeah.
but you're fighting that big issue that is ahead of you,
Yeah.
then it's easy for you to open up.
And there's another narrative, especially in our contemporary African culture, where men are told, "Otumia derawa maodo mothe."
Exactly. Even
get-
women, yeah.
You're told that, isn't it? So that narrative has shaped our mindset. Like, I can only be open to her to a certain point.
Level, yeah.
Because again, modromedea nikaga. You get, so that hinders us from being emotionally connected to our spouses. And you can tell an emotionally disconnected couple. Ask me how.
How?
When they're walking down the street, the husband is there, the wife is there.
Let me tell you. Interestingly, studies show that for you to be able to connect and to enjoy passionate love as you should, it does not start from sex. It starts from, are you able to hold your partner's hand out of the blues?
Yeah.
Are you able to give them hugs? Are you able to give them kisses on cheeks? And, just that physical intimacy
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with sex.
Yeah.
That is just a show of care, compassion. And so it is important that people work on
Yeah.
that kind of relationship.
True.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it. You can tell, I kid you not, you can tell a couple that are emotionally disconnected.
You
eh?
can, you
When
can.
they're walking, they are frowned.
Yeah.
They're like, are you talking to your wife or something? Eh? And we are
know?
all guilty.
Yeah, we are.
But
really.
what you said is so key, that in order for there to be that consummate love, it starts from the outside,
Exactly.
coming on the inside. Do you think our African mindset will break free from that?
That's why we are here, Edwin.
That's what we
Why else are we talking
Yeah.
like this?
So we should say we are not speaking from an African perspective or a Western perspective, a kingdom perspective.
Period.
Yes.
Because how does God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit relate?
Kingdom.
They relate on kingdom, agenda.
Yeah.
Their agenda is just about building that kingdom.
Yeah.
They're working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
And that is what people forget. You initially start well.
Yeah.
You have the same goal. You have the same vision.
Yeah.
But in the middle of it all, you forget.
You forget.
You feel like now you came to fight your partner.
Yeah. And I've never understood that for the life of me. That
I
you can
think,
you can be brought together by love,
Yeah.
passion, and then after you get married, your partner becomes your wife. I've never really understood that. Why?
I think it's because, see, now when you start experiencing challenges along the way, you're not able to separate the challenge and your partner and see them as two different things.
Rose, you're awesome. I will say that.
Really, it is a conflict management tool.
You're not able to separate the person from the issue.
From the issue, let me tell you, I'm guilty to some extent, and I want to give my husband all the accolades because he has mastered that art so well that he's able to separate those two things.
For
if you
real?
if you master he keeps telling me, excuse me, when he feels like I'm going out of hand, he tells me, excuse me, you need to remember that we are still friends.
Wow.
And as much as we have two different opinions on this, we can find a level ground. That's the problem. If you are able to separate those two things, Edwin,
The
to
person
know
from the
that
issue.
your wife is also human, she's expressing her view on a certain matter and you're expressing yours. So you're not enemies, but there's an issue here that you need to address. When you find a common goal in conflict, nothing will come between you two.
That has to be the most powerful thing you've
Yeah.
said. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Oh my God. So
Yeah,
get rid of the African mindset, get a kingdom mindset.
exactly.
Separate the person from the issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? That is awesome. That is really, really awesome, Rose. So we need to renew our mind. So even there's hope for the African man, the Kikuyu man.
There
Those of us
is.
that are told you shouldn't show emotion to your spouse.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're able to connect on that deep emotional level, again, we are going all the way down to the physical
Yeah.
intimacy. So it brings us to intellectual intimacy, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. You said this, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
You should be able to converse with your spouse on geopolitics, economy, such things, and you have a conversation whereby it's like a debate, isn't it? That's
It is.
intellectual intimacy.
Yeah, intellectual intimacy allows you to pick your partner's brain. It allows you to have expectations from this person. And let me tell you, there's one thing that I don't agree with that is so, that has been spread all over, that you should not have expectations when it comes to marriage. But I feel like on the basis of intellectual intimacy, it's good to have expectations.
Yeah.
Because how else will I grow if my partner does not have expectations of me? I will only know what I know. But if he has expectations of me to know certain things about money, certain things about God, certain things about politics, then I will grow.
Wow.
So it's good to have expectations, but have expectations for the sake of growth.
Yeah.
That is why intellectual intimacy is good. When you're talking about certain issues, you're not talking about them so that you can outshine your partner.
Yeah.
You're talking about them so that you can be at par.
Yeah.
Whatever he knows or whatever I know, we get to share.
True.
Sometimes things get heated, but at the end of the day, we remember the previous point we said, that you're fighting from the same side.
Intellectual intimacy.
Yeah.
You can have a sit down and say, what do you think is the real cause of the Gaza fight, Israel plus? You get
Exactly.
what I'm saying, yeah?
Exactly. Yeah.
And just have an honest conversation. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you provoke each other to grow intellectually.
Exactly.
Because you say something powerful. You said you should have expectation on your spouse.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. You know why? If there are no expectation, you're settling
Exactly.
for mediocrity, for average. But when I expect you to grow, personal growth and development, you expect me to grow, then I'm always feeling like, okay, you know what? I cannot be mediocre.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I have to grow. And that
Exactly.
allows you even to evolve as a couple, isn't it? Because as you grow older, you realize as you grow older, physical intimacy becomes...
It dwindles.
It
to
doesn't
some
mean
extent.
it goes away,
Yeah.
but you get what I mean. So you need to have something deeper than just physical intimacy. Could it be the reason why sometimes we see Hollywood couples, sorry to say,
Yeah.
they divorce like 4 or 5 times because they pegged all their expectation on physical intimacy, and when that faded, there was nothing else. You know, because once you remove physical intimacy and there's no other foundation, there's nothing else making you stick to your partner.
Exactly. That's the problem. And this is where you're telling people your relationship is okay.
Yeah.
It's only that there are certain things that are missing and you have not been intentional about finding out what is missing in our relationship.
Yeah.
If you started with physical intimacy, you need to know if you need to find out ways of connecting deeper.
Yeah.
You know, intellectually, spiritually.
Emotionally.
People actually divorce because they end up just having empty love, which
Yeah.
is commitment.
Yeah.
You're committed because you have children. You're committed because what are people gonna say if we
You've
separate?
exchanged vows in front
You
of
have
people.
exchanged vows in front of people. That thing happens. But it's good to know that when you get together as a couple, then you go through the stages of growth. You know, the stages of love. I don't know
Yeah.
what they call them. Edwin, you can educate us on those. The honeymoon stage.
Oh, yeah.
Please enlighten us on those stages, because I
Yeah.
feel like they inform a lot.
They
They inform a lot about how marriage, the direction that marriage is
Yeah.
going to go.
Yeah.
You know, when you stop feeling those butterflies and you feel like, okay, we are done. And maybe it's because now you're going into the other stage of marriage that you need to know. So I
Yeah.
think people need knowledge.
We need to know that because, like, there are 4 seasons basically. Let's say there is summer, autumn, spring,
Yeah.
winter. So marriage is in seasons. So the first season is the honeymoon stage, where you're happy all over each other, calling each other. The physical intimacy is on another level.
Yeah.
You get it? Then you go to familiarity stage.
Love
Shazoyana,
it.
madharau imeanza kuingia, you get it? And then you go to what is called power struggle. Now you're trying to
Power
prove to
dynamics.
it. Yeah. Who is on top of the other?
Yeah.
And then after that, you go to the stage whereby it's like you're almost about to give up, but you're there for the sake of the children, for the sake of your family, for the sake of, what will people say?
Yeah.
But after that, and once you've been through all those seasons, now you go to the most beautiful stage, whereby you are at a point whereby you're like, you know what? After all is said and done, I
still choose
didn't want to
you.
be with you. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
So if you don't understand the seasons, you'll be wearing a coat in summer
Period.
instead of wearing a t-shirt in summer. Yeah. So marriage is in seasons,
Yeah.
and most people think because I'm out of the honeymoon stage, I must have fallen out of love with them. No.
Exactly.
You're
Say
in
that
another
louder.
Yeah. it's just that you're in another season.
Thank you.
Understand the season
Yeah.
you're in. You see, the key thing is this, and what I love about our show is knowledge is power,
Period.
isn't it? And when you're informed, you're able to make informed choices and decisions. So
Totally.
what you're saying is absolutely amazing, and I agree with you 100%. I think
Yeah.
Tutisha is on fire, isn't it? That brings us to physical intimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have to say about that?
Amazing. I think physical intimacy, like we said, is the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It is what consummates. It is what finalizes all these things that we have been working on. Are we able to connect emotionally? Yes. Are we able to connect spiritually? Yes. So after we are able to connect on all those levels, I don't see why physical intimacy will not work unless there's actually an underlying issue that needs medical attention.
I'm glad you mentioned
Yeah,
that.
because again, we don't want people to think, oh my God, so then we have connected on all these levels. What is happening? Of course, there are medical issues that come into play. But if you have been able to explore all these other types of intimacy, then physical intimacy should just flow.
Physical intimacy is the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And what physical intimacy is this, Rose? You can only tell your spouse, I love you so much.
Yeah.
You can only have so many words to describe it. But physical intimacy allows you to show them.
To show them.
You get what
In
I'm
fact,
saying?
if it lacks
Yeah.
in marriage, in the context of marriage, if it lacks, again, it's a problem.
It's a major red flag.
It's a major red flag. That's actually now empty love.
That's empty
Commitment
love.
without passion, without
Yeah.
emotions.
And most relationship experts will tell you,
yeah.
if in marriage is not happening at least thrice
You
on the
know?
minimum, something is not
You
there.
need to work on
Unless
it.
there's an underlying medical condition. But it should be at the very least, they say, not me,
Yeah.
at least thrice. Because again, there's a way you can express it to your partner that words, you
Yeah,
have no words.
there's a dimension
There's a
that physical
dimension-
intimacy gets to
Exactly.
that words cannot.
So when all these things are in place, physical intimacy, oh man, it's the icing on the cake.
Actually, interestingly, and that is why we are calling it consummate love,
Yeah.
physical intimacy is the one now that sets apart your relationship from any other relationship.
True.
Because with, say, friendship, you're able to connect emotionally and you're able to connect on a commitment level.
Yeah.
But there's no physical intimacy.
True.
So physical intimacy sets your relationship apart.
It does.
Yeah.
In fact, physical intimacy, oh, you've said it.
Yeah.
Okay, in Greek, there are different kinds of love. Agape love and conditional love. You mentioned it a
Yeah.
little bit. What we call eros, erotic love, that
Yeah.
you find in marriage. Then we have filial love, friendly, your
Yeah.
friends. Yeah? Then we have another one called, oh, why do I forget now when I'm on?
I also keep
Storge love.
forgetting them. Yeah.
Storge, yeah? So love, depending on who you're relating with, there's love between a father and a child, a husband and a wife,
Yeah.
two friends and everything. So when you understand marriage, physical intimacy, that's eros.
Yeah, that's eros.
It sets you apart from any other form of
And you know
relationship.
the world has taken physical intimacy and ran with it. You
Talk
know,
to me now.
and it is so unfortunate. I need to repeat this louder, that sex is divine.
Yeah.
It comes from God. It is not an evil thing.
It's
It
a
is
concept from
it is
God.
sacred. It is
Yeah.
a concept from God, only that it has been taken out of context. And you know what the word says, that at the right time God makes everything beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's the aspect of time. Physical intimacy calls for the right time.
Yeah.
If you do it outside God's timing, then it destroys your life.
True.
You know, but if you do it within God's timing, it beautifies everything.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think people should remember that physical intimacy is not a secular thing.
And that's why, again, I have an issue with Hollywood.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood has taken it and made it something it is not supposed to
Yeah,
be.
it is so unfortunate.
And that's why you find most couples, we used to do that before I was a born again Christian. You would hook up,
Yeah.
and the first thing in your mind after you've gone for a couple of dates is physical intimacy. But after you've gone through that emotional rush,
Exactly.
dopamine rush, you realize at the end of the day there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You get, that's why you find there's hookups, breaks up. Young people call it character development now.
Yeah.
But if you go through these stages we are sharing with our viewers, and you find he's the one, she's the one, and then now you consummate that,
Yeah.
oh man, it's like a dovetail joint. It fits, isn't it?
It does.
And what I love about these levels of intimacy, it allows you to be committed to that person. So even when you face temptation, because it faces all of us, you're
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. Am I going to undo everything
You
I've
know,
built over the years
exactly.
just for 5 minutes of pleasure? You get, it grounds you.
Yeah. Ground.
But if what brought you together is physical intimacy, then all you need is someone cuter for you to
Exactly.
you get to switch
Yeah.
allegiance. So those are the 4 levels of intimacy that I believe, and there may be more,
Yeah.
isn't it? But I believe we have tackled them. So we said one of the ways by building intimacy in marriage, listen to this, share your true feelings and thoughts with
Yeah.
each other. Validate each other's feelings. I think sometimes couples don't validate each other's feelings.
Yeah, giving those affirmations.
Yeah.
You know, like I was watching a certain couple
Yeah.
that has a podcast. Most people know them, Benseko and Wanjiru,
Yeah.
and they were discussing on the way you can easily invalidate your partner without knowing, by using terms like you're too sensitive, and yet this person is risking it all by expressing
Yeah.
how they feel.
Yeah.
So words, again, you know, we talked about words
We
last
did.
time.
Oh,
So
yes,
words are very important. The way you use your words in expressing them to your partner
Yeah.
matters a lot.
Absolutely.
We said that words are tools,
Yeah.
but they can also be weapons.
True.
So you need to know how you're using your words in the context of your relationship.
yeah.
Are you using them to build or to break?
Yeah. So when you're talking about validating your spouse's feelings, means when they talk to you, listen to understand, not to respond.
Exactly.
Most couples do this. I used to do this. I'm growing.
Yeah.
My wife would say something, and my mom like, "Ego kidade joke here."
Yeah.
So I'm not listening to her to understand her,
Yeah.
to respond. So it becomes a match, shouting match. Who shall outprove each other by making their point? But if I listen to them to understand them, I'll concentrate. Okay, what do you mean? There's something Bishop Dijek says. When his wife says something to him, he asks her, "What do you mean by that?" Because
Yeah.
by the way I've realized this, I can say something to you, but how you interpret it may be
Exactly.
different from what I wanted to project. So you often says, "What do you mean by that?"
Yeah.
And lest
'Cause you
I
need
misinterpret,
clarity.
you get what I mean?
Yeah.
That means you're validating your partner's feelings. When they tell you, "I'm not feeling good,"
Yeah.
don't just tell them,
I know.
just go buy Panadol or something. No. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Before I go to work, do you need anything? You get it? So that validation is important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that builds intimacy. Another one here. Find out what your partner's love language is.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
have said that a million times.
A billion
here,
times, yeah.
that your partner, you can only love your partner for them to feel loved. It's when you love them the way they want to be loved, not the way you want to love them.
Yeah.
You know, and actually, the way you express your love to your partner is how you want to be loved.
I remember you said that.
Yes. So what you're supposed to do is pay attention or even communicate to know, because you cannot know unless you have that conversation.
Yeah.
Pay attention, ask,
Yeah.
how can I love you better?
Mm.
How can I be more present in your life? Have that that's why I'm telling you, there's a lot of work to do in marriage that I even wonder where people get time to go,
Yeah.
and have extramarital affairs. But again, it's because we take marriages very casually and we settle once we get our partners.
True.
But you need to know the love language of your partner, love them the way they want to be loved.
Yeah.
And that is why love is very sacrificial.
Yeah.
And the reason it is Jesus died on the cross, not because he wanted to be nailed, not because he wanted that crown of thorns,
Yeah.
but because he had a greater goal to love and to show compassion
Yeah.
and to redeem.
Yeah.
So why are you in that marriage you're in?
Yeah.
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 Are you there to take or to give? And that is why we said previously that if you want your marriage to be successful, you have to get into it with the goal of giving
Not
and not the
getting.
goal of taking.
Yeah.
Taking will come because it will be reciprocated. If you have the right person, they will reciprocate your love.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that for you to love your partner ultimately, just find out how they want to be loved.
Love, you said love is self-sacrificial. I don't think we really understand that.
It is
Because
honest.
that's the heartbeat of what marriage is, isn't it? Is denying yourself, really denying, because the Bible says, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for. That is self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
But most of us are so egocentric, so selfish, you mentioned it, so self-centered, that you can't imagine sacrificing for your partner. And that's why sometimes you find most marriages are struggling, because we haven't really adopted self-sacrifice. We're always thinking about ourselves. And when you think about yourself, then no matter what he or she does, they can never satisfy you.
Exactly.
Because you're always demanding. Demanding, yeah? So go into marriage with the concept, I'm going to give.
Yeah.
And let your spouse go into marriage with the concept, I'm also going to give. If both of you give, oh man, it will be awesome. But if one is giving, the one is taking. The one who's giving will burn out.
Yeah, of course. It's natural for
It's
you
natural.
To want your love to be
So the love
reciprocated.
languages help us not to burn out.
Yeah, I think love languages are an easier way of handling love. It's like breaking down the concept of love.
Yeah.
It makes it easy. It makes you intentional.
Practical.
It
very
makes it practical.
Yeah.
So these are just tools, honestly, and
They're
they're very
tools.
important.
Yeah. And do you know there are couples who do not know what their love language is?
Yeah, of course.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So one of the ways you can tell what your partner's love language is, and you said it, how they show it to you
is how they want
is
it
how they
showed
want-
to them.
yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it's the easiest way to learn. If you don't want to ask, then
Yeah.
find out how they love you, how they express their love to you.
Yeah.
That's most likely how they want it expressed
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do another show and talk about what a husband needs, what a wife needs. But let me just mention this because it's in the context.
Yeah.
For us, our interpretation of love is RESPECT.
Say that again.
RESPECT, respect.
Uh-huh.
That's how we interpret love. If you want to show you love him, respect him.
I know. By the way, for most men, it's
All
respect.
men,
Yeah.
that's our love language. Or that's how we feel that, oh, the man anipenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if there's no respect to a man, I don't care what you do for him.
It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because if you don't respect, honestly, even just for all human beings,
In general.
respect in general, respect is such a major ingredient to express love.
Yeah.
Because respect comes in many forms, in how you manage your time around them, how you spend your time around them. If you offer time, they feel respected to some extent. In the way that you speak to this person, they know that you respect them through your words. So respect is a big deal when it comes to expressing love, even for women.
Yeah.
But now for women, mostly I think being listened to.
Yeah, attention.
Yeah.
You love
Being
attention.
attention. Attention.
Attention, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true, respect goes both ways. For
Yeah,
example,
goes both ways.
it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly.
Not just what you say, but how you say it. Because again, there's a way I can talk to you in such a condescending manner.
Yeah.
Like, "Huyu jamaa yani ananichukulianga tu hivi hivi."
You know.
You get it? But if my tone, my variation, my body language, the way I communicate with you will tell you whether I respect you or not. Isn't it?
Absolutely.
And most couples miss that, unfortunately, which is so, so sad. So, Rose, what are some of the signs of lack of intimacy in marriage?
You no longer feel the need to spend time with this person
Quality time.
because you're wondering, why am I even spending time with this person? They're
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
So in that way, then you know that there's no intimacy at all.
There's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect.
Yeah.
If there is no physical intimacy, those ways that you interact with your partner physically that are not sexual, then again, you know, there's no intimacy.
Yeah.
Because for a person you love, at least I think it revolves around the 5 languages of love.
They do.
You know, because if you're not, you don't feel the need sometimes to just embrace them, to just hold their hands,
Even to spend time
to
with
just
them.
spend time with them, you know.
And one of the things, Rose, like, do you miss him? Do you miss
Exactly.
her? Like, you're like, yeah, boy, you miss her. You know
I
what I
should
mean?
call them.
Yeah.
You know, I think we should mention the 5 languages of love,
Please.
just to remind people,
Yeah.
so they know what we are talking about. So there is touch, there is quality time, there is acts of service, there is gifts, and then there's words of affirmation.
Yeah.
I think if those 5 are lacking, because the thing is, you have a priority as an individual. There's what you want being the first,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that is what you feel most loved when it is done to you.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, you need all of them.
We do.
We need all of them, and therefore, if all those are lacking, you know, completely, that you cannot see that there's no any one point that your partner tries to even, you know, touch you, not sexually, but just in a compassionate, caring way. If there's no any one time he or she tries to, you know, just offer some services to you, just serve you with tea, you know, bring gifts to you to some extent.
You say something.
Yeah.
We all have different love languages, but we all need them.
We need all of
To be
them.
quite honest, we all need
Yeah,
them.
we need all of them. So
Yeah.
sometimes you need to gauge your relationship and how you're expressing love to your partner
Yeah.
with these 5 love languages.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
But there's a level where you reach when you go beyond
Yeah.
those 5,
Yeah.
because you have really worked on your marriage,
Yeah.
and you're able to experience wholesome intimacy. But for starters, you need to gauge yourself with those 5.
Absolutely. So that's one of the signs of lack of intimacy.
Yeah.
Another one is, you know, feeling like your partner is taking you for granted. There's an imbalance in communication.
Exactly.
Feeling misunderstood and misjudged, isn't it? Huh? So when you find that there's a disconnect, simply what you're saying, when there's a disconnect, when there's an invisible wall between both of you,
Yeah.
you know, like one of the things you mentioned, touch that is non-sexual, like when
Yeah.
you kiss her on the forehead, you're just saying, I care about you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you hug them,
Imagine you're feeling a difficulty in hugging your
Yeah.
partner. You feel like you're giving
or
them too
even
much.
maybe you're seated and you're just holding hands, not
Yeah.
talking, you're watching TV holding hands, you know, all that communicates a lot.
It goes a long way in bringing the fire back.
Come on now.
And that fire is necessary. Passion is necessary.
If there's no passion, there's no marriage.
There's no marriage.
To be quite
Empty
honest,
love, yeah.
it is empty love. You're just enduring
Yeah,
marriage
exactly.
instead of enjoying
Enjoying
marriage.
marriage,
You know, and the reason why, again, many people sometimes go out of the context of marriage to look for a side fling because they think another woman or another man is a way of self-medicating.
Yeah.
But it still leaves you empty.
They say the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it.
Another nugget.
So you need to
Rose.
water your own grass. Stop
Yeah.
going for that grass that looks greener because somebody else worked on that grass.
And somebody
Work
also
on yours.
said that you may admire someone else's grass, maybe
Yeah.
it's growing on a sewer.
Exactly.
You get that? So you're admiring something, but once you get there, you're like,
You don't know what it has taken to get there.
But I love that. You can water your own grass,
Yeah.
isn't it? And make it look good.
Yeah.
All right, this is a 3-part series. And that was the first part of our show. I'm going to ask you to give us some closing remarks, Rose.
I think number 1 is to remind our beautiful, lovely viewers that where there is unity of purpose, God commands a blessing. So you need to work from the same side with your partner. And number two, the hardest climbs give the best views.
She's on fire.
So don't shy away from working on your relationship.
Mm.
At the end of the day, you're gonna love it.
Awesome. Amazing.
Thank you.
1 Peter 3:7.
Mm.
Husbands, live with their wives according to knowledge. Knowledge is the key, guys. If
yeah.
we have that knowledge, then our marriages will burn with passion. Rose was on fire today. Eh?
You know?
Look, we love you. We are praying for you. Make sure you join us next week, because again, this is a 3-part series, and we'll be still in the context of how to achieve wholesome intimacy in marriage. And honestly, in one sitting, we cannot exhaust this. That's why we made it a 3-part series.
Yeah.
So if you watch it today, go and watch it again and again, because it will be setting the stage for what we shall be talking about next week. From Thai Worldwide Ministry, we want to tell you we love you. We are praying for you. Make sure you are tuned in. Tomorrow we are back on air with Wangoi Getao. We are doing our relationship Thursday. So again, this is going to be an amazing week. We did relationship on Wednesday and on Thursday, but that's how we roll at Thai Worldwide Ministry. We love you. We are praying for you. And until next time, God bless you.